Welcome to the Longevity Program, a program designed with one simple key element in mind, and that is to live longer, stronger. Today, I'm going to focus again on one of the key pillars of the Longevity Program, and that pillar is what I call nourish, or eating. One of the questions that I am regularly asked is, how can you incorporate the intermittent fasting that you do and the plant-based diet that you have with the amount of training that you have, and in particular, the protein requirement that you have to take in every day as part of all of that? And my simple answer is what I call my high protein Bircher muesli. And I thought today I'll share with all of you what I do with this high protein Bircher muesli. So I've got my trusty notes here, my research as always. I've got a suite of ingredients that I'm going to go through and we'll go from there. So the first thing I do every day, every night actually, because remember the Longevity Program is also about living in this modern, crazy, busy world that we live in. And one of the challenges that I certainly find for myself is how can I pre-prepare something that is going to be really nutritious, really simple to make, and really able to work with my schedule and what I do. Because remember as well, as much as I'm going to talk about something which is traditionally a breakfast, for me, this is actually not breakfast, this is lunch. So it needs to be able to come with me to work, in the car, or wherever it is in that day that I am traveling. So I grabbed myself a glass Pyrex dish. You can get them quite easily in any supermarket, any major retailer, and they're really handy. It doesn't have to be glass, it could be plastic, BPA free of course. But apart from that, I'm ready to go. So I've got my glass dish and I'm going to be focusing or targeting on getting 70 grams of protein in this one sitting. Now, how do I do that, you ask? Well, it's pretty simple. Actually, before I get to that though, why am I targeting 70 and how much protein am I, for myself in this program, actually looking for? Now, I worked with my nutritionist on identifying the protein that I need. Now, as I always suggest, before you would take on any of this thought that I have as I'm sharing in this program, I would suggest you talk to your own doctor, your own nutritionist, because this is what works really well for me. I'm just sharing it because I love it so much. So in talking to my nutritionist, she said, look, Andrew, you want to be, with the age that you are and the training that you have, getting about 1 gram to 1.5 grams of protein per body weight. Now, I'm around about 86 kilos, so to make it simple, let's say 90. So 90 grams of protein to about 140 rounded up. So 140 grams of protein down to 90 grams of protein, somewhere in that range is what I'm looking for every single day. Now, if you're lucky enough to be younger, you mightn't need as much protein. Obviously males and females can change, and if you're looking, for example, to really bulk up, to get some big mass in weightlifting and so on, you might want to go higher on your protein. But for me, that's the protein that I'm chasing. And so in this one sitting, this meal that I have generally in the middle of the day, although if I've done a really big training session, for example, an hour and a half swim or a 2-hour run in the morning, I might just grab this and have this as breakfast because I just follow what my body feels that I need. Anyway, so that's the protein I'm shooting for. How do I get that? Well, the first thing I add into my high protein Bircher muesli is the humble rolled oats. Now, these are really great for so many reasons. And if I have a look here, rolled oats, nutrient dense, carbs, fiber, protein, vitamins and minerals, for example, manganese and phosphorus. So that's a 1/2 cup of rolled oats, and in it goes. The next ingredient I have is a 1/4 cup of hemp seeds. Now, once again, you can get them in any number of health food stores as well as some major retailers. And those hemp seeds, I'm chasing in those essential fatty acids, omega-6 and 3, protein. Now, these hemp seeds are about 25% protein in their total makeup. That's packing a pretty good punch. So 25% protein roughly, vitamin E and minerals. So in they go as well, which is great. The next ingredient that I've got in my high protein Bircher is once again 1/4 cup of chia seeds. Now, chia seeds, fiber, antioxidants, omega-3 and minerals. So I'll just throw those on in there. Now, the next ingredient, I've got to say, for me, I absolutely love. Now, this is an acquired taste. You mightn't enjoy putting lupin flakes into your muesli, but I tell you what, from what I've researched and from what I've experienced myself, if you can appreciate it, they've got a really grassy, almost nutty sort of flavour to them, and it's quite bitey, so you may or you may not like them. I actually have grown really to quite like them. So lupin flakes, looking at my notes here, protein now, 40% protein in lupin flakes. They're the highest ratio of protein that I've found in any of the plant materials that I've been looking at incorporating into my diet. So they pack a protein punch. Fibre, minerals such as calcium, potassium, magnesium, and iron. So plenty of goodies in that one, and in that goes. Okay, the next ingredient that I throw into my high protein Bircher muesli is just an organic hemp protein powder, so effectively hemp protein. And what are we chasing there? Well, that's got protein, obviously, essential amino acids, minerals, iron, zinc, and so on. So in that goes. We are almost in throwing the ingredients. The next one I love to throw in, very much optional, but is a handful, maybe call it a quarter of a cup of just sultanas. Now, once again, looking for sultanas that are natural sultanas, not added with a whole lot of oils and so on. So that's just naturally dried, sun-dried sultanas. And in they go. I just love the flavour that they have, but they've also got some really great polyphenols as well. The next addition, once again, predominantly for flavour, but also for some really cool antioxidants, are the trusty blueberry. Now, once again, that's about a handful, about a quarter of a cup. And so in that goes, and if I look at my notes there, obviously flavour, vitamin C, K, and antioxidants. So in go the blueberries. Then the next item I put in is a trusty banana. Now, once again, for me, so much of this is flavour, also filling me up. It's got some great fibre in it, and it really, it just, I think, I've been eating bananas since I was a kid. So for me, you can't have cereal without a banana. So I would cut that up, chop that in, and then the final ingredient that actually before I do any of that, before I just give that a bit of a mix. So you can see there that mix is and in mixing that up, I'm just sort of making sure that protein powder, the chia seeds, and so on and so forth, they're all mixed in. Whack in the banana. You can do it before or after I put the milk in. Actually, normally I'd probably put the milk in first and then put the banana in. And so here we've got about a cup. Now, sometimes if it's a little bit too gluggy, and I know that it's really going to take when it sets, it'll take up the moisture too much and it'll be too dry. I add a little bit more milk in. It's a little bit to taste, but call it a cup of soy milk. So we put that in, and you can see there in this Pyrex dish, it's a pretty good fit. So then I'll mix that in, and I would cut up the banana, throw that in, and let that set. Now, one of the things about, well, there are a couple of things about letting it set. The first thing is you're allowing the soy milk to really activate, for example, the chia seeds, which makes the nutrients more readily available for you to digest. So that's the first reason why I like to do it the night before, to give it that time to have that activation for example, the chia seeds and so on. The second reason why I do it the night before is because I'm doing it the night before. It's ready to go. I'm up. I've got plenty of things to do the next morning. I don't need to do one more thing with this, unless you might want to, once it's set, or you can even do it before if you want, add in, and I do this quite regularly for taste and flavour, add on top a couple of spoons of coconut yogurt. Now, once again, keep an eye out for coconut yogurts. They're not all created equally. A number of them have added sugars, but you can definitely find them without added sugar. So look for the unsweetened variety and just keep an eye out for those added sugars. So I've created something I created earlier. This is one that I created last night, and it is ready to roll. And you can see it's fairly dense. In fact, you could pretty much turn that upside down, and that's not going anywhere. When you have this, and I get really hungry, super hungry, because I do lots of exercise and I keep active and so on and so forth. And I've always eaten plenty ever since I was a kid. So in eating this, I at least find that it keeps me going for a good chunk of time. Also gives you something to do as you're getting through the lunch, the morning, whenever it is that you're having it. So there you have. There you have it. That's my high protein Bircher muesli. Now, once again, you don't have to use soy milk. You could use coconut water if you wanted to. You could use almond milk. You can use any milk that you want. If you wanted, if you're having dairy, you could throw in just normal milk. The world's your oyster when it comes to that sort of thing. It's just obviously to bring some binding and some moisture into that cereal for you. So some final thoughts on the key stats on that high protein Bircher muesli, because I really find that it gives me so much energy through the day, and it sets me up for a really good day ahead. So 70 grams of protein approximately. Now I've used an app to type in all of these ingredients to identify what are the key estimated ingredients and nutrients that are in this cereal of mine. So 70 grams of protein, 1,200 calories. So it packs a punch in calories. That's roughly half of my required calories in any given day, given that I normally burn around 2,400 or higher if I'm doing a really heavy training set, but let's call it 2,400 for me. So it's roughly half of my calorie intake. But then again, given that I haven't eaten until lunch normally, it's one of, call it 2 meals, and it's a pretty big one at that. So I'm not worried about that. And I've got to say, for me personally, I don't count calories except for when I'm occasionally looking at things to go, I wonder what's going on there, but I definitely don't count them through the days and weeks. But for other people, that works perfectly fine. Whatever works for you. The next key stat in this is around about 50 grams of fat, of which only 6 is saturated. Now, 22 grams of saturated fat is the recommended normal dietary intake for adults. So it's well under that, and it gives me plenty of room to move through the rest of the day. It provides 95 grams of carbs, roughly, which is about 30 to 40% of my carb needs, depending on what else I'm doing. It's got about 40 grams of natural sugar. Now, you'll note that there is no added sugar whatsoever, so no refined sugar, just natural sugars. It's got about 40 grams of that. And then finally, it's got about 400 grams of calcium, which for the average adult, that's about 40% of my calcium needs. And that is it. That is my high protein Bircher muesli. It works really, really well for me. I hope it may work for you, or it may not. It may be a bit heavy, or it may be too calorific. But obviously, you can play with the ratios if it is that you want to just cut that down a bit and not have as much, but at the same time get some of those great macronutrients that I've taken you through. And remember, for me, this and everything else that I do is all about living long, living strong. Until next time.